Loman.
Here.
Poe.
Present.
Decker.
Yes.
Tucker.
Yes. I don't know. Somebody brought it by to
Son,
me.
you got any
The
more
office.
agendas?
I wasn't there when they brought it.
Oh, here, Steve. There's your packet. Sorry.
We're going to adjust our agenda just a little bit. We're going to go ahead and do item 3, approval of minutes, and then we'll make a slight adjustment to our agenda. So, item 3, approval of the March 12th, 2019 regular meeting minutes. If there's any questions?
I'd make a motion to approve.
Second.
A motion and second. Roll call vote.
Poe.
Yes.
Loman.
Yes.
Slater.
Yes.
Decker.
Yes.
Tucker.
Yes.
We're going to we have some special guests that's going to be with us today, and our first group is going to be Faith Hospice, and so to kind of be cognizant of their time, I'm going to go ahead and ask you guys to share with us and kind of some information about the new business to Woods County, and share with us a little bit about who you are, what you're doing, and those type of things. So,
Well, my name is Sasha Brooks. I'm the patient care coordinator for Faith Hospice of Western Oklahoma. And this is Tabitha Talley. She's one of our RN case managers. She's one of the faces that the patients will see up here. I'm up here often. I'm just not in the field as often as she is. She's going to be taking care of the patients. We have a great team here in Alvin. We are so excited to get started here. Hospice is a Medicare-funded benefit that a lot of people are missing out on because there's just no community education on hospice, and there's a misconception that hospice is only for patients that are actively dying, and that's just not the case. We've had patients on services for years and years, and we just really help them through all kinds of things. Hospice is a holistic view on our patients. We care for them spiritually, emotionally, physically. We have social workers and chaplains that visit the patients at least a couple times a month and just check in on everything that's going on. We provide pain management, and our social workers help with things like DNRs and power of attorneys and things like that. So our goal as a hospice company is to keep those patients at home and keep them comfortable for as long as possible. Once they come on hospice services, they no longer have to go and sit at the doctor's office for several hours to obtain their medications or their new scripts or anything like that. We come to them, we handle that for them. So if they are feeling, well enough to get out and about, they're not sitting in a doctor's office, they're able to go have lunch with family or do things that they love to do. Our main focus, of course, is quality over quantity. So we do everything in our power to make our patients comfortable and keep them at home.
We're not just there for the patient, we're there for the families as well. One of the really nice things about this company is that they maintain a relationship with the families for 13 months after their loved one has passed. And it just ensures that they'll have a little bit of support during, over a year after their loved one has passed.
And we do a lot of bedside, in the event that a patient is actively passing, we're going to be there with the family 24/7. We're going to sit at their bedside so that they're never without. We do have the patients that come on services that we only have to see one time a week for several months, and then we just increase. Everything is tailored to the patient's needs. Go ahead.
Gonna need some more chairs.
There's one over here, Randy.
Right here.
There's 3 of them.
Oh, I'll step back.
There's some.
No, you guys are all right.
You're good. We'll just get some more chairs. Come on in.
Crashing the party already.
Sonia.
You're good.
Introduce.
Right now, Faith Hospice is president, so hang on just a sec.
This is fine.
Thanks.
Hey.
I'm standing.
Hey,
How are you doing? How are you doing?
It's good to see you.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that. Here.
It's a party today.
It's a place to be. People.
No, we lost Randy.
We're
We're good, we got it. We
good.
Yeah.
No, I cleaned up a little bit.
No, we specifically here today to, they're here to visit us.
Okay. Awesome.
Tell me on Faith Hospice, what is your staffing need? So you guys service,
We service anywhere from a 60-mile radius from our Alva office. And that's just so that we have prompt response time. We are a 24-hour service, so if your patient has a pain or your family member has a pain crisis in the middle of the night, we're able to come out in the middle of the night. We have 24-hour access to pharmacies. We get any medications that we need. We have access to everything that our patient would need at all hours of the day.
and so you staff with RNs?
RNs, LPNs, we have aides that come in and will do baths if needed. If the patient isn't to the point that they necessarily need help with baths, we can do what's called a homemaker visit, and we'll come in and just tidy up and help them clean up their home.
Break down the difference between hospice and home health care for me.
Home health, you're seeking treatment, and hospice is a little different in the fact that you're saying, I no longer want to seek aggressive treatment. I just want to stay home and be comfortable. With home health, you pretty much have to be homebound. You can't get out of the home to go to the doctor's office or anything like that. And with hospice, we encourage you to get out and do things that you need to do to be independent for as long as you can. But you're opting no longer to seek that chemotherapy treatment or any aggressive treatments at all, really. You're just opting to stay home, be with your family members, and be comfortable for the remainder of your life.
But the key diagnostic is what?
You have a terminal diagnosis, and those diagnoses could be anything from COPD to heart failure to cancer. And with the way that we recert our patients, we do a recertification period. It's written so that, if the disease follows its natural course, this patient's life expectancy is 6 months or less, which doesn't always happen. We don't know when or where or how people will expire, but when they do, we're there for them. And
So
their
somebody
families.
who's got a Lou Gehrig's diagnosis, you guys could start doing stuff, and that could be 5 years out.
We could, as long as they have, as long as they meet criteria per Medicare and have those certain diagnoses, certain lab work and things like that, absolutely.
Okay.
So number of employees here in Alva?
Right now, we have about 8 to 10 employees. Of course, we're growing right now. Across Western, we have more like 30, 40. So we pull girls from Woodward if we need to. Tabitha's going to be one of the faces that everybody sees for right now. And then we have an LPN, Bridget. We have social worker, we have chaplains, we have our consultant that'll come out. And even if a patient's family member is just curious about hospice, they can give us a call and our consultant will just come out and sit and talk with you. There's nothing saying you have to sign up for hospice right now. It's just, we're going to come sit in and educate you guys and give you your options.
And it's also an option in the facilities. We don't just have to come to your home. We can go to the nursing homes or any nursing facility.
Right.
Any other questions?
Good service.
Yeah, we're excited to have you now,
We're excited to be here.
here in Woods County, so.
Thank you.
They brought you cookies.
Yeah, happy
Thank you.
trees. Good job.
No more information you can share. You are certainly welcome to stay and listen to all the excitement that we're going to talk about. Or,
We don't expect you.
Yeah.
I actually have to go and do a start of care on
Do
another
an admission,
patient.
so.
Very good. Well, do you guys know, you heard a few people's here's names. Do you know everybody in the room?
I
No.
do not.
No, I was like, I think you went to school in Cherokee.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you if you're from Cherokee.
Yes.
It's been a while.
Yes.
We're going to go around the room if you guys don't mind. So new people, new faces. So, we know you now, but that way you might know us. So, Mr. Poe?
Oh, I'll start. My name's Alan. I work here at the Tech Center. I do ag business management and financial management for farmers ranchers, and then also do some stuff with business startups, things like that. And I also may come in contact with you guys, coordinate the EMS training program here through the Tech Center. So that may be somewhere, we need to meet.
Matt Tucker. I own a crop insurance agency here in town. Exciting.
Randy?
Randy McMurphy, County Commissioner, Farmer Rancher out west of town.
Okay.
I'm Steve Loman, and I part-time farm and retired.
Kay Decker, I'm professor of sociology at Northwestern. Also have community development programming that is office staff here.
Tony Williams, Northwest Technology Center, Woods County Economic
Would you
Development.
guys like to be involved in this roundtable
Sure.
introduction? This is-
If you want us to.
Yes, I mean, I think that's part of the deal, so.
Emily Brummett with Invenergy.
I'm Debbie Guest-Nice from Energy. I'm a developer.
Vicki Ayers Portman, Senior Government and Regulatory Affairs.
Do you guys know what Invenergy is?
Not-
You might want to
learn
explain it.
something.
So we do
Not Hammer?
utility scale development, so renewable energy. Oh, I'm sorry,
No,
I jumped into it. I was
no.
like, I don't know. That's what we're doing. We're working on it.
Gotcha.
Bo Hannaford, the Vice President at Northwestern.
And I'm Darren Slater, and I'm the superintendent here at the Technology Center. So we're excited to have you here, and if any of this team can help you, let us know.
Okay, thank
We
you
appreciate
so
you
much
coming
for
out and
having us.
sharing with us.
Appreciate it.
Not a problem.
There you
Thanks
go.
for the goodies.
Yeah, enjoy.
What'd you guys think?
Yeah, I know, like, right? I'm like, wait a minute.
Thank you guys very much.
What is your schedule? Do you have 30 minutes? Are you here for?
We are, we're here, we're here.
There you go.
For the duration. Yeah,
I'm gonna leave, we kind of have announced things, so I'm gonna leave
Sure.
that towards the bottom of the agenda,
Okay.
if that's all right.
Absolutely.
What about you guys?
just squeeze us in wherever you can squeeze us.
Very good. All right, we're gonna jump back up to item 4, approval of financials today. And those are attached to your agenda, and if you have any questions, we'll answer them.
Where are we, Sonia? Comparative thing?
Well, pretty good. We have, let's see, this is June, so it's time we're billing for the banks that are doing the quarterly pledge.
I looked over, it still look good. I'll make a
You can
motion to
sign
approve.
these if you want.
Got a motion, is there a second?
Were you done?
Sorry about that.
You're fine. You just asked where we were in comparison. We're good. We're good. We were up in NOEDA funds. We only say that we lowball estimate 15,000. This year we got 29,159.20. And that is something, they meet tomorrow in Winoka, FYI, and they've adopted a new thing. So all the funds that they accumulate in the year, they're gonna split equally amongst the 3 counties and maintain this. So we'll get, they're not gonna be holding money like they were before.
Good.
So
So is that gonna come to,
it comes to us.
okay, excellent. Okay, Randy.
Sorry about that.
Sorry, you're fine.
I can't listen to 2 conversations at once and I wasn't paying attention, so.
I have a motion by Mr. McMurphy, is there a second?
Second.
Tucker,
Tucker, okay.
discussion, not roll call vote.
McMurphy,
Yes.
Tucker,
Yes.
Slater,
Yes.
Lumpman,
Yes.
Decker,
Yes.
Poe.
Yes.
Item 5 is approval of contract with Northwest Technology Center. As many of you know, the Woods County Economic Development Committee, that the Technology Center is kind of the LEA of the executive director. At the Technology Center, the committee pays for a portion of Sonia's salary and benefits, and then the Technology Center picks up a portion of her salary and benefits. For easy math, that's about 1/3 and 2/3. It's not quite that, but basically the committee picks up, a little less than 2/3, and the Technology Center picks up a little more than 1/3 of those expenses. And so, that's that's how that works. It allows us to be able to provide her employee benefits, insurance, and retirement through that mechanism. So it's, I guess, speak on both sides. It's been a good agreement for the Technology Center and the committee, and so I would recommend that approval.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Not, roll call?
Loman,
Yes.
Decker,
Yes.
Slater,
Yes.
Murphy,
Yes.
Poe,
Yes.
Tucker.
Yes.
Item 6 is our update and any possible action regarding the status of our goals and objectives and staff activities. So Sonia, I'll turn it over to you at this point.
The Avard Rail project, we're looking at doing expansion of phase 2 of the rail. We'll be meeting about that tonight, and maybe even some road stuff. There is, the build grant applications are due this month. So we gotta move on that to be able to get our figures to be able to make application, which we have. So we should be able to make application for those. Water resource and conservation, we have plenty of water. So I would gladly send any of ours to someone in need at this point. Downtown revitalization and wayfinding signage. Dr. Decker has been working on that. Are we into phase 2 of wayfinding signage yet?
I'm gonna go ahead and submit a grant out to the city so we can get some of that done. In fact, I plan to do that today or tomorrow.
I did notice that as the city of Alva, as stuff is going out of service, then when they bring it back in, we're branded. They're putting our new stuff on it, their vehicles and everything.
Yeah, I hope that that will continue. That was the intention.
So, Alva Arena project, we potentially will be going out for bid this month on that project and kind of have a better idea of where we are and what we can afford. Tourism, I can honestly say I have not worked on the social media aspect. I did have a conversation with some of the businesses that are utilizing Sable for their social media campaigns about possibly seeing what that dollar figure would be to hire them to do that for us. And see if that, because that's not something I really have time. And it's not really in my wheelhouse. Let's see, business recruitment and assistance. I will say that I talked with Faith Hospice when they were coming. Anyway, they did really good legwork, going around talking to doctors and hospitals, but we're trying to open doors for them to make sure, because as they stated, when people hear hospice, they don't really know what all services that entails. So any kind of things that we can do to help, we need to.
Who's servicing that need now for their, is there entities out of Enid or Woodward or?
There is a competitor entity. There is a competitor entity. And I can't tell you the name off the top of my head, I'm sorry.
I just see it
I
on
was
card.
curious.
I think it's Carter. I
I
see
think
it.
it's
Are they,
Is that one?
are they out
But
of
there's not a local one. Okay.
Nope. And I don't know if everybody heard where their location is, where the physical therapy was located in Pinniger's office. When they moved downtown, that's where they're located now for their offices. They had their ribbon cutting, Marion, 2 weeks ago, probably. So, anyway,
Couple of new supply
couple new supply businesses.
businesses open in Woods County, one here and then one in Winoka.
The incubator building that we're part of down there, has been rented for a while to Bell Supply, and then they were in an expansion phase, and they have moved, they're in the process of moving in. I would expect their doors to be open probably in the next week or so.
And another service supply company who rented the old
Sunbelt.
Sunbelt rentals out, east of town. I see pickups there, and I think that's, I don't know if they're fully
I think
stocked.
they're doing some delivery work, maybe not retail like they will, in the future for that industry, but right now they're doing it more on a sales basis through the trailer sales.
Items.
I say egg board in every day or eat a lot of my time.
Item 7, discuss new goals and objectives for 19 and 20. Does anybody have any additions, or we seem to be an organization that don't ever subtract, and so,
I'm thinking maybe we need to take tourism off.
tourism off.
Yeah.
Is there any discussion on that? Any other
The
thoughts or ideas?
individual communities are needing to step up to that. I mean, Sonia, that's just not something that she's got the time to deal with. And even if you bring in interns, you still have to feed them so much in the way of content that that's not it's really not a realistic thing, I think, right now.
More of a specific item to each community than a global perspective.
Yes, and the city of Alva's got their own tourism promotions, marketing that they contracted with, so that kind of has filled a gap that Woods County Economic Development at one time was trying to fill.
Winoka is starting, I mean, their new mayor is pushing some tourism agenda items down there. I've sent her information that I have, and we'll gladly do that, send her anything that I have that will be able to help her, but as far as being able to take the lead on that, I think she's aware that that's not something that I can do.
Right. And I don't know if we need to have housing listed either.
I think that was put on there during the boom.
I think that could come off. For the next couple of years, if we feel like we need to address this as a county, Sonia and I have already talked a little bit about it, and that's the census. I know most people probably think my hair's on fire saying this, but we really need to look at our census tract lines. And OEDA at Beaver is in charge of that. Commerce funnels everything to a cost. And I don't know whether this will change anything or not, but I have a sense that if the census tracts were rethought, there could be parts of Woods County that could become eligible as an opportunity zone or low-income housing tax credit zones, because you have to have a certain threshold. And right now, the census tracts are, it all has to do with number, population number, but for lack of a better way of saying it, you can gerrymander that a little bit.
And you can split the counties.
Oh, heck yeah, Harper County is one big census tract because there's so
Okay,
much.
but I mean, I was
But
just
Woods
curious.
County, Woods
Yeah.
County's got several census tracts.
Okay.
And, yeah, it's just something that we need to look at.
Because I brought that up at our industrial authority meeting about trying to help get the word, people, they hear census and they just don't want to participate.
Right.
And that's hurting us as a county and a community.
Yep.
Who looks at that, Kay? I mean, when you say,
Well, the way it traditionally works here in Oklahoma, the U.S. Census Bureau, they start gearing up, 5-6 years out. Next year is the census year. So they start feeding data and information and strategies to the individual states. And in Oklahoma, the State Department of Commerce is the contracted state agency that is the direct go-between with the Census Bureau in DC. Unfortunately, our previous governor really didn't have that on the radar. We're 2 years behind, and Brett Kisling, I spoke with him a couple of weeks ago, and he is really hustling to train to get the state up to speed, and so they've funneled everything out to the COGS, Councils of Government, OEDA being ours, and they're responsible for analyzing demographics, figuring out where the census tract lines are, seeing if they need to be adjusted. And so if we have a concern or a request, I suggested to Sonia, invite them over here. Let's have a sit down and talk about it, see what can happen.
Do they even have a director out there now?
I
They do? Okay.
I don't keep up with the kind of a revolving door of people for a while.
Well, that's why I asked.
Right. But that's what I think we probably should focus on for a while, is the census. And that is something that, some college interns could come in here and really help maybe get the word out how important it is to economic opportunities, housing opportunities, etc., that we do the best job we can when it comes time for the census to be collected.
And that's something we talked about this morning at the Industrial Authority meeting, and I told them I'd received this letter from Northwestern for a meeting Tuesday, June 18th, and it's from the Division of Business. And it's on public-private partnerships, and I wondered if that was something maybe to talk to them about, seeing if they could help us in that regard with census stuff. As neither representative from Northwestern.
My department can, for sure.
Okay.
And that's what we do anyway.
That's something that I think we should be brought up at this meeting.
Yeah.
So
those are, kind of my suggestions is, we don't pay attention to changing our goals that frequently, but it kind of seems to me that maybe we need to be focusing on the census and accuracy of the count, etc., for at least the next year or two.
Okay, would you put that in the form of a motion for me?
I move, do you want me to do all of it? I move that we...
Let's do the takeaways and the add all of them.
Okay. I move that we delete tourism and housing as goal areas for the upcoming year and add census support to our goal area for the upcoming year.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that?
My only discussion would be, I don't know, does this group have a mission statement per se? I mean, because a lot of it depends on what's the goal of the group for the overall scheme goal to what the objectives and goals here to really go after.
really, it's kind of been defined by the economic climate. It's just,
The Industrial Development Authority has a mission statement. And we're a sub part of that.
I'm not saying I want to write one, I mean, how do you really know what your objectives need to be if you really don't know what your goal is? Anyway. Not that I agree with those objectives, I'm just saying to really discuss what they need to be.
with the restructuring, I mean, they had specific areas, that's all that they that they had with specific areas. One of them was transportation, one was tourism, and one was business. And then that came out of the focus meetings of 2006.
Okay, that was mine. Okay.
What happened to all that stuff that we used to have? That notebook had kind of all that in it, I thought. We'll find it.
Any other discussion? If not, we'll take a roll call vote.
Decker,
Yes.
McMurphy,
Yes.
Slater,
Yes.
Loman,
Yes.
Poe,
Yes.
Tucker,
Yes.
yay.
Item 8, any discussion, budgetary needs based on the new goals and objectives for 1920.
I don't know that.
What's your mileage? Do we need to? I'm not seeing that on here for travel or,
It's,
Yeah, it's up 8,000 or something.
is that okay?
yeah, see, we have July and August left as remaining, and we've got 1,500 left in travel. So, that should make
But for next year, would
For
that be
next year,
adequate? That'd be adequate?
I would think it would be.
Okay.
If not, then we can change that when we approve our budget for next year in September.
Darren, did you have, when we talked the other day, was there anything on the budget that we needed to?
I think I've got that all worked out.
Okay.
So, no action.
Think just leave it as it is?
Yeah.
I move that we leave it as it is.
I'll second that.
A motion and a second on keeping our budgetary items the same for next year.
Decker,
Yes.
Poe,
Yes.
Slater,
Yes.
Loman,
Yes.
Murphy,
Yes.
Tucker.
Yes.
Item 9 is discuss staff needs based on new goals and objectives for 1920. Any discussion on, we're kind of have been a one gal show here, and that's, we've had an assistant that helped for a period of time, and that was more with the social media and marketing at that time. And so as we remove that as a goal and objective, is there thoughts on staffing or?
I think Sonia needs to have a support staff person, personally. How to get there is another thing. I mean, Arena, Avard, just those two alone, especially when the arena goes and starts. I mean, there's going to be a lot of stuff to keep track of.
Hopefully when that goes, there'll be a executive director there or a person that can.
Well, I mean, even just, staying up with bids and construction, that.
Let's go back to the center. What does she need there to help to?
Right.
I mean, I'm more curious about that, if
Right.
that's where our needs are,
Well,
is what, I mean, being naive about it, you tell me what, I mean, does she need assistance on that, or, which we're talking about through the college kids, but still, I mean, it seems like a pretty big role and a pretty big need.
we need to get folks from Beaver over here to talk specifically about that, and then, if there are detailed things that we can be doing or need to be doing, yeah.
Then look at it then.
Yeah. I mean, it affects everything you guys do.
Well, I mean, I realize that, I just don't know how to go about what,
Yeah.
and know what she needs, is what I'm getting at. I get the importance,
Right.
I just don't know
Do we have funding at all for like a quarter time even?
We don't have in the budget right now, we don't, that I can see.
The challenge with that is where we run that through. The way we had it before is in the partnership with Northwestern. And Susan was actually paid by Northwestern. I paid Northwestern. Similar to our agreement that we have here.
So do you guys have any of the retired worker, whatever that program was, reentry program money?
That Yolanda left, that Taylor.
Oh, used to be
Oh.
NOEDA, or
Yep, yep.
workforce,
We,
but it's not that anymore.
Is there any of that?
You know, they have some opportunities to pay
Yes.
some intern type help. There's lots of qualifications that have to be met, so it's just not a specific person that you could go out and recruit.
It's not a long-term thing either. I mean,
Yeah, it's about 525 hours if that person qualifies
Yep.
for that.
Right.
But that's based on each individual's situation, whether they qualify for that type of service or not.
but that's maybe something to look into.
So what if we could say the possibility, once again, that we need to be looking at how we can get at least a quarter or half-time person here?
Could be important to know what role that person has. It depends a lot on whether they need to be quarter half, what the qualifications need to be. I mean, that would be something I think Sonia needs to present to us is what does she want before we go any further with
First,
deciding what we need.
I need to know I need to meet with OEDA.
Yeah.
Because that's specifically, the help with that is gonna be specifically what that person will need to be doing.
I mean,
That's the push. I think, to me, that's where we're behind the 8 ball, where we can have more help than anything on all of our projects, is because that's something that you go after federal money, you go after any of that, that makes a big impact.
Yeah.
And
I think if we want Sonia to take a look at that, she needs to bring us, I say us, the board back a proposal of a job description and a list of things that person is going to be able to perform for her before the board can make a decision. I mean, I don't disagree that there's a lot of assistant type things that person could benefit on, but we'd kind of be throwing darts at the wall right now that
Got it.
if that would be something, and then a prescribed
Maybe
estimate of hours.
our fiscal year starts September 1.
yeah, it starts September 1.
So maybe, do you think you could think about it and bring something back then?
I
Our
think-
September meeting?
I think, yeah, for sure, better have.
Well, let me throw this out there. If we, something like that, the description, what we gain, the county would be a big beneficiary of this deal, and maybe we work a deal to fund part of this deal, but with something showing what we're gonna get, or the possibility. You see what I'm saying? If I take that to the other commissioners and,
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Okay. On it.
We want to put that in the form of a motion to task Sonia with that responsibility to research out the viability of not only with of needs and objectives for a additional part-time staff person.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
yeah, I'd like to base that on the census deal
Okay.
for
For right now.
our participation in it. Okay? I mean,
For you say R, you saying from the county?
I'm for the
side?
commissioners.
Okay.
Deal.
I think if she brings
Might
back
be
that
the first
information.
role of that person or something.
Right. That way, if we go for a specific need, I think it's better for us.
You all don't have anybody at the courthouse appointed to do that, do you?
No.
But
You need somebody.
Yeah.
on the proposal you bring back, make sure that it's specific to our 2019-20 goals and objectives. So this part-time person, if it's, you know, these goals related to the census, related to the other goals and objectives, so you'd have a specific kind of time and need based off our approved goals and objectives.
Okay.
That sound?
Yeah.
Decker,
Yes.
Poe,
Yes.
Slater,
Yes.
Loman,
Yes.
Tucker,
Yes.
McMurphy.
Yes.
We should have moved 10 up, Dr. Loman.
Are you
Moved
leaving?
it to item number 1.
Oh, you need to sit here.
Item 10 is the appointment of new board members. And so we have 2 board members that are term limiting out, which is myself and Dr. Loman. And so I don't know, I'm going to let you go first, Dr. Loman, and present who you would recommend as your replacement.
Okay, I'm pleased to recommend Dr. Bo Hannaford. Of course, Bo is the Vice President at Northwestern, and I can assure you he will do a good job. He serves on I don't know how many boards around this community, and was eager to jump in on this one when I told him it only met 4 times a year.
Well, we have subcommittee work.
Yeah. He'll do a great job.
Can I get a motion to?
Yeah, so moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to appoint Dr. Bo Hannaford to the Woods County Economic Development Committee. Roll call vote.
McMurphy.
Yes.
Tucker,
Yes.
Slater,
Yes.
Loman,
Yes.
Poe,
Yes.
Decker.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody.
The other appointment to replace my seat, he is unable to attend today. He's actually at an instructional leader meeting in Oklahoma City, is Jeremy Eaton. Jeremy is the new campus, or he's been here for a year, campus director here at the Alva campus, assistant superintendent for Northwest Tech for the Alva campus. Jeremy's been in education for 23 years, understands economic development. I think would be a good addition to our committee, and I would recommend his appointment to replace me.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Roll call vote.
McMurphy.
Yes.
Decker,
Yes.
Slater,
Yes.
Loman,
Yes.
Poe,
Yep.
Tucker.
Yes.
Thank you guys, both of you, for your
Welcome
service.
very much.
Appreciate it.
Our vice chair is, right now,
McMurphy.
Mr. Murphy. I'm going to turn it over to you to do item 11 then.
Reorganization of the board elected, election of officers.
Current.
It's open.
Everybody jump.
Poe want to be the chair? Is that what the?
You want to be
Yes.
the chair? You can be
How
the
long
chair.
is the chair position?
9 years.
Only 4 times a year.
I guess I could do it 4 times a year.
Do you want us to do all of them at
Let's do them all.
one time?
Is he the vice? Do you want to stay the vice?
Vice.
I'll be here when I remember.
I think you're secretary treasurer,
And my secretary.
I believe.
I move, Randy, you remain in your position as vice.
So
I
we got-
move to appoint Poe, Alan Poe to the chair, keep Randy McMurphy as vice, and Mrs.
Okay.
Decker as secretary.
We'll just do it all at once. I got a second. I'll second that. How's that? Let's just
That
move
works.
on.
You're welcome, Kat.
Okay, it's your show, Poe.
We have a roll call, Sonia?
Yes.
Hold on, okay. Tucker.
Yes.
Murphy. Hannaford.
Well, it's official now,
You're
yes.
You're in.
Poe.
Yes.
Decker.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, item 12, Sonia. You want to give us an update. Did you have a meeting this morning?
We did have a meeting this morning. So far, you talked just about everything that we talked about.
Okay, good job.
No. So we talked about the census.
I like this new guy.
I will tell you that, so we don't have to meet in July. And I told them, and Woods County, we get our insurance, meaning our board's insurance and everything, all of that comes through the industrial authority. We pay a flat $1,500. We've paid that to them, and they pay the remainder. So that is for the next fiscal year. That's not, they do that in July. We don't have to meet in July. We've already taken care of it. So FYI, our insurance is taken care of. Next is I will be attending the Governor's Economic Development and Workforce Summit. Are you all going?
Yeah, me there.
Yep. Okay. That is August 12th and 13th in Edmond. In addition, there was another, oh, no, we already told you about this. Partners meet, private-public partnership meeting at Northwestern. So you kind of know what I have on my plate to talk to them about. That's something new I just received in the mail. I didn't know that was going on. So anyway, that's where we are. Now we have, how many times did you guys hear us talk about Clean Line and all this? So you've heard Vicky's name several times. I've worked with Vicky for quite a while.
Be nice.
For quite a while. Vicky Ayers Portman. She was with the city of Guyman for quite a while, and now, Vicky, I'll let you introduce your group and
Yeah.
what
Yeah,
who you're with and what you're doing.
Commend you guys for what you do, because as Sonia mentioned, I used to do community and economic development for the city of Guyman, as well as PREDC, the Panhandle Regional Economic Development Coalition. So not unlike what you guys are doing here, and it takes an army, so hang in there, right? You moved from Clean Line, I think originally when I came to talk to everybody many years ago, I had left economic development and took a job with Clean Line Energy, and when that project didn't move forward, I am happy to say that I took a job with Invenergy, and that's where I'm at now. I do government regulatory affairs across Oklahoma and Washington, D.C. As well. So, but I'm happy to say that we've purchased the trade wind projects Invenergy has that are close by and near and dear to Woods County. And we have our development team that's going to be working on these projects here. So we have Demi Gastonitis, and we have Emily Brummett, and I'm gonna just kind of let them talk a little bit more about kind of where we are with the projects and the timelines, and kind of give you just a broad overview of kind of where we're at. Things are, not moving as fast as we'd like, but at some point here, they're gonna, hopefully, if things move forward, we'll be moving very fast. So, Emily, you wanna?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, whichever.
Sure, yeah, no, so since the acquisition from Tradewind, yeah, thank you. We've been advancing the development, pretty much just picking up exactly where they left off and trying to fill any gaps. So we're stepping in and making sure the county is aware of who we are and that our team is here. Just like Vicki mentioned, things are probably advancing at the same pace as they were with the Tradewind, but we're really hoping that here in the next few months that they'll hopefully speed up, and then it'll be a pretty rapid process for us to construct these projects and get them online in the next few years. There's a lot of steps along the way. We're definitely, working through all that right now and trying to understand what we need to do to get these online. I'm working closely on our Sundance project. Emily's working closely on Freedom and some others nearby. I'm not sure how familiar you are all with.
We aren't, so why don't you tell us
Yeah.
Okay.
where those are? Yeah.
Sure. So I don't know if you're familiar with Tradewind Energy, but we acquired a handful of projects in the state of Oklahoma from them I have about 5 projects, and there are 2 projects that are in this area here. The Sundance project, which is south of the Freedom projects. I don't really know how to. I wish we had a map. Yeah, they're covering all like
Right there.
Woods,
Right
Alfalfa,
there's
I'll give them
Main-
a-
Basically, the Sundance runs from North Winoka east towards.
Northwest, the
There you go,
cliff,
yeah. There you
the
go.
cliff.
Whereas the Freedom would pick up there and run on Morning Star up that way, or is that a different
North.
project?
North.
There's a
Yeah,
gap in there,
northwest.
there's a gap in there, but it's going up north of my house 3 miles
Okay.
and west about 5,
Right.
and just zigzags through there. That was a new one to me today because
Okay.
nothing that had been up there in the past that I'd seen.
Well, let's just say, I mean, these are really fluid still, so that's really why we don't show maps at this point, because even though Tradewind had certain land leases already in place, we're actively looking at other options on leases, so these are still very fluid outlines. And, you know, these projects have been submitted into different opportunities for off-takers, so we're, you know, in that phase of where we're trying to find buyers for the power, and hopefully, you know, in the next couple months, we'll be here with some news to actually say, but really, we just really wanted to let you know that the acquisition, you know, has finalized, and that we're still actively working in the area, and that these 2 fine ladies will be seeing a lot of you.
Yeah, and to piggyback
So-
off of that, essentially, our relationship with Tradewind is we acquired these leases from them. So Invenergy does full suite development in-house. We have engineers in-house. We'll contract out the construction and manage the construction process ourselves. But mostly the engineering is happening in-house. We do the construction financing ourselves.
A lot of the environmental work's already been done on this, and a little bit more in the process. Just so you are aware too, we have already started, right after the acquisition took place, we started meeting with Vance, and just to make sure everything was good there. So we, you know, we have a great relationship there, and I know that's been a lot of concern for a lot of folks in the area. So we've been working really close with Vance, and we'll continue to do so as we decide which pieces and parts need to move and flow, so.
Now, will you guys be the operators once the construction's complete, or will the bid sold then?
That's a really good question. It always just depends on the
Okay.
contract, the power purchase agreement that gets put in place. Invenergy does have a pretty outstanding record. We've won 2 years straight with the American Wind Energy Association for operations and maintenance. So we always prefer to, we're very close to the projects as the developer, so it's something we prefer to do, but it's not always the case.
But
we
you do operate some wind farms?
Yeah, actually, we
Okay.
have, do you have those winds? We
Sure
have
do.
a little like portfolio where it shows the wind farms, but we operate many projects across the country and internationally as well. We'll build an operations and maintenance building and work closely with the county to develop, like we were talking about earlier, a plan in place.
These 2 projects are, basically how many turbines? Are they 100 turbine farms, or are they?
It all depends. So, you know, turbines right now have, one machine has a capacity anywhere between 2 megawatts and about 3 megawatts. So, the variation there is just the length of those blades. Some are taller machines than others. So it really depends ultimately what the nameplate capacity of our project will be. Let's say it's a, you know, 300 megawatt project, 200 megawatt project, you're looking at upwards of between 60 and 80 machines. But it'll depend, like Vicki was saying, on how those contracts play out here in the next, you know, few years, few months.
I have a question, and this is a question I get regular as a landowner that has leases in the projects.
Yeah.
What's your answer to, what percentage chance do you think the wind farm gets built?
Wow. Well, you're asking a development team, so we always go 100. But also a real developer will be extremely realistic, because there are a lot of things along the way that for being in the business, me not personally, for in the business for 20 years, I've only been with Invenergy for 3, but we see how things can change in the development process, and especially when you're in very advanced development stages, there's a lot that could still go wrong per se, but that is out of the developer's control. So regulatory issues, which, you know, Vicki's been very familiar with, we've seen the regulatory environment for these projects fluctuate very rapidly. So like a percentage, wow, I mean, it's really, really hard to say, but when something is as advanced as some of our projects that we acquired from Tradewind, where leasing is pretty much complete, and now we're hoping to just market it and get it up and running here in the next few years. I mean, I want to say above 50, right? Like there's a better chance that it would get built than not getting built. But until it's contracted, that's when our certainty starts. That's when you'll start to hear that number, like maybe 75% from us. But we wait until that contract's in place to really start talking about certainty.
And I think you know, over the last couple of years, you've seen all the incentives in Oklahoma on a state level go away. But there's still the federal PTCs, right? So, and those are falling off. And so there's a rush by utilities right now to really start putting out requests for proposals for more wind, to try to capitalize on those before they fall off. For us as utility users, right? I mean, all of us want the cheapest amount possible in our rates. And so there's this rush right now by utilities to start putting out proposals for this last minute possibility to tap into low rates for customers. And so, you know, it's going to be a process, a rush process here over the next year or two to try to meet the demands of the utility people, so that they can lock in these nice rates for their ratepayers. But then it's how do we get these built? You know, can the turbine manufacturer turn the turbines fast enough to get the projects online in time? Can you get the contractors in place to get it built in time so that you can capitalize on the federal PTCs for the ratepayers to get their low rates? So
What is PTC?
Production tax credit.
So at the federal level, when do those start running out? I mean, like now or
Right.
next year? Or?
yes, they're already on a downhill. So it's 80, 60, 40, 20.
Is
Zero.
that just legislation that needs to be reaffirmed or all new legislation or what?
I don't think at a federal level, the OEA, the American Wind Energy Association, there's been a lot of talk over the last year, do we try to get something extended, do we not? OEA is kind of, the developers that, the companies that are part of the OEA organization feel like it's probably not something worth pursuing. The pricing has come down, different, your systems, your turbines have gotten more efficient. A lot of things have happened to make the pricing more competitive, and so I think there's not a pursuit at this time
Don't need that
to extend those, right?
Yeah, okay.
And a lot of these are actually based off of whether developers like us started construction on projects back in 2016. So it's dating back to a few years. We've anticipated this decline in that tax credit. So that's why exactly what Vicki was saying, a lot of projects are going to be coming online here in the next few years so that we can
And
capitalize on
there
them.
have been some safe harboring of turbines, which is companies buying a certain percentage ahead of time so they can qualify for the federal side. So a lot of companies, have bought up turbines and safe harbored them, what they call safe harboring, which allows them to stay in the tax bracket for the PTCs.
So
but-
when, let's just say everything goes okay and you're ready for construction, what are you looking at in terms of workforce numbers? What's an estimated workforce number?
Sure, definitely something we would have to wait and see when size of the project when we know that. So just a caveat with that. 10 months of construction, upwards of probably a few hundred construction jobs, maybe about 200 or so. And then in our operations and maintenance, we're counting about a job for every 10 turbines that we have in the field. So again, numbers that'll play into
So if
the
there are
size.
300 turbines in the county.
Be like
as a
30.
result.
Yeah,
30.
yeah, that's a
30
good,
tech jobs.
a good metric to assume.
So what does a community need to do to say things go along and it looks like it's a go? What does a community need to do to reach out and try and make sure that you attract the community would attract that workforce to be here rather than Woodward.
Yeah, that's a really good question, and definitely comes up as a concern for areas that maybe don't have a lot of hotel space. I've seen a lot of communities prepare by having RV yards. Those temporary construction jobs, they'll come with like fifth wheels, is my
Yeah.
understanding is what
Yeah.
they'll live in. So I've had a lot of landowners that'll, invest in starting.
Well,
But you're talking about the permanent technician jobs, right, Kay?
Both,
I
yeah.
mean, we have a lot of capacity, I think, as a result of the oil and gas boom a few years ago, that it's just something, I think it's a communication issue, making
Yeah.
sure that
Mhm.
community, city, municipal government leaders and the private sector knows, hey, this is coming.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think communication is key. So we can definitely, when we know a timeline of when we'll start to have crews out here, that can be something that we can certainly
And I think the
communicate.
career tech, plays a huge role in this.
Yes.
Across the state, there's several career tech training programs for the wind technicians, and then continuing ed type classes that are very helpful in their certification and that kind of thing. So just, being in tune with the needs of the industry.
What about from a contractor standpoint? How do we know, how to get involved, when to get involved? Are we too early to send contractors your name and say, put your name in the hat to submit bids, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so since like I mentioned earlier, we're not the contractor that will build it. We'll bid it out to many contractors that we worked with all across the country. And typically we'll open up a development office somewhere nearby. They'll have field offices and a site manager that usually starts to come to meetings like this with us when we're about to enter that phase. So there'll be a direct line of communication, and they'll have job postings and.
So like for instance, on that contractor you've worked with all across the country, now, will you'll award the whole project to them and then they will sub out the individual portions of that? Or do they do that all themselves traditionally? Because I guess I'm asking from a local contractor. Do we have-
They'll do it themselves. They'll headhunt themselves. It doesn't always necessarily fall into one contractor. We could do the civil work with one. We could do the erection of the turbines with another. But yeah, it's mostly communication, and just they'll reach out to local workforces and folks like yourself to say, where can we source hopefully as much as they can locally. But just like we were mentioning earlier, the nature of having a lot of these projects online by 2020, 2021, a lot of those contractors are pretty swamped. So
Yeah.
it is pretty interesting. I think, it's a concern that they have, is having,
Does
being
Energy
short
have
hand.
any other farms in Oklahoma that they have constructed?
So we developed a project up near Fort Supply, Centennial, and which is now owned by
OG&E bought it.
OG&E. But nothing else in Oklahoma that we've constructed.
Several under development, about 8 actually under development. Yeah,
Right.
and then some solar as well. So,
Well, let me back up a minute. I'm gonna presume that Tradewinds didn't give you this deal.
that's probably a good assumption.
As a gift.
Okay. Well, so if you bought it, you anticipate it happening.
Well, we're obviously doing everything we
Yeah.
can to make sure.
Right, but I
Yeah.
mean, that's, okay.
Yeah.
And we've submitted into some options, for requests for proposals that have come out, and, we're optimistic. Well, hopefully in the next couple months, we'll be back here telling you a whole different story,
news,
right?
yeah.
We'll have something solid to share.
Like an actual construction
So-
timeline.
And the thing is, these projects, as Demi was saying, kind of ebb and flow and go back and forth, but a lot of the regulatory piece is a part of that. So whoever, like if it's Western Farmers or OG&E or PSO or any off-taker, the whole process is a little bit different, but you have to go through a whole regulatory approval process. So even if our project and some others were chosen, you still have to go through a lengthy regulatory approval process, which could take another 6 to 9 months. So it's a, and then you're up against, some deadlines to get everything erected by, and online by the end of 2020 in order to take, the federal tax credit, so. at 100%. So yeah, there's a lot of variables at play, for sure. And certainly as soon as we know that we've, been, in a contract.
Yeah.
As soon as we know, we'll be back here visiting with all of you, and we'll definitely, as we move through the process, we'll take you through that process with us and make sure that you're updated on a regular basis of where things sit and how, we can all work together to make this great for all the local contractors that we can and the communities and
The rail park.
yeah.
We'd love to have you.
So yeah, I think, as we know if things are going to move forward and then kind of move through that process, we'll be back here and hope to share a better timeline with you when that does happen, so.
You're gonna get asked all this again tonight?
Yeah.
Probably.
We'll go
Are
through
they
the
coming
process.
tonight?
That's okay.
They are.
Are you there again tonight?
I'll say the rest of my questions.
Yes. Well, thank you guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Because we've
Thanks for having us. Yeah.
heard, kept on trade winds and, you guys came out from the turkey hunt.
Yes,
We wanna make sure
it's awesome.
you guys got to interact with some of our local people and our local
Yeah.
contractors.
Well,
That's
Energy is really big about trying to, to utilize local contractors where we can. So, and I think, even though we're gonna hire a contractor, or contractors, hopefully, we want to make sure that they're utilizing as many possible locals as well.
We worked with a lot of the same ones, and one thing we especially like about them is their ability to source locally.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
Guys, any other questions?
We don't have much left. You're welcome to stay, but we don't mind if you get up and leave either. We'll move on to item 13. Noah, you have an update?
No, 'cause I don't have a new meeting. Vicki, when's the quarterly meeting?
I'm sorry.
Do you know when it has Noah set their quarterly meeting date?
You know what, I just know,
Because I haven't received a notification.
you know what, there's
She's
not,
involved with that too.
it's July, but I don't remember when.
I'll send it out to you via email.
Sorry.
What about item 14, any new business? I see none. Any announcements?
Thank you guys again for coming.
All right, thank you very much. Anybody, a motion to adjourn?
Got it.
Second.
Dr. Loman, Karen, thank you guys for serving.
You're welcome.
Appreciate that.
Take a break and come back.
Mercy.
One term off, he's back.
Hannaford, Decker, yes,
Yes.
thank you.